Deion Sanders reacts to Colorado Buffalo's meltdown at Utah. Saturday night in Salt Lake City was supposed to be a new chapter for the Colorado Buffaloes. A chance to shake off the rust from a bye week, reset their focus, and remind the college football world that Deion Sanders' revolution in Boulder still carried promise. Instead, it turned into a nightmare of epic proportions. The Buffaloes didn't just lose. They were dismantled, outclassed, and utterly humiliated by the Utah Utes in a 53-7 blowout that left fans, analysts, and even Coach Prime himself searching for answers. For a man who built his coaching philosophy on swagger, confidence, and belief, Sanders stood before the media after the game stripped of all bravado, humbled, disappointed, and brutally honest. A loss beyond words. There isn't a word in the English language to describe what was inflicted on us, Sanders admitted, standing before reporters with the raw honesty that has become his trademark. I got a lot of respect for Coach Kyle Whittingham, and he kicked my butt today. It was one-on-one with me and him, and he won by a significant margin. Love him, appreciate him. Love his endurance, his longevity. The attitude of his team resembles the attitude that he has for himself. Utah's 53-7 thrashing of Colorado wasn't just a lopsided defeat. It was a collapse of every structural element that had once given Buffalo fans hope. Coming off a bye week, Colorado looked slower, softer, and less prepared than at any point this season. The Utes ran for a staggering 422 yards on the ground. Colorado, by contrast, had minus 18 yards of total offense in the first half. This is bad, Sanders continued. It's probably the worst beating I've ever had, except for when my mama hooped me as a kid. The brutal statistics tell the story. The numbers alone paint a picture of utter dominance. Total offense: Utah 587 yards, Colorado 140 yards. Rushing yards: Utah 422 yards. Colorado's first half offense, minus 18 yards. Special teams: Colorado gave up both a fake punt and a blocked punt. When asked about those breakdowns, Sanders didn't mince words. You ain't winning with that, he said flatly. 300 yards rushing, you're not winning. 250, you're not winning. 400, you've got no chance. Even Colorado's normally confident sideline looked deflated. The offensive line struggled to hold off Utah's relentless pass rush. The defense missed tackles at every level, and the special teams looked utterly disorganized. They blitzed us to death, Sanders said, shaking his head. They're still blitzing us right now, and we're inside. Coach Prime's accountability. This starts with me. Throughout the press conference, Sanders made no excuses. He refused to blame his players or assistant coaches directly. Instead, he took ownership of the collapse, calling it a failure of preparation and leadership. The way we practice, the way we prepare, there's no way that should happen, Sanders said. There's no way. The physicalness we exuded all week long. There's no way. Consistency. The only thing we were consistent in is, I guess, penalties. 2 for 15 yards. I'm proud of that. That's the only thing I'm proud of. That rare mix of sarcasm and frustration underscored just how far things had fallen. Sanders' Buffaloes, once the darlings of college football for their swagger and upset wins early in his tenure, looked like a team without direction or confidence. Leadership starts with me, Sanders declared. It starts with the coaching staff. Forget the guys for a minute. It starts at the top. I'm trying to figure that one out. I really am. Utah's masterclass versus Colorado's collapse. Kyle Whittingham's Utah squad played with discipline, physicality, and cohesion, 3 traits Sanders has preached about but struggled to instill consistently. The Utes' offensive line dominated the line of scrimmage, opening wide lanes for running backs who averaged nearly 8 yards per carry. They didn't just run the ball, they owned the field, said one Colorado assistant after the game. They played like a team that knew who they were. We didn't. Sanders, meanwhile, praised Whittingham's culture of stability. Stability in certain areas, Sanders said when asked what separated Utah from Colorado. The thing about it, those areas show up and they show glimpses of success. Sometimes you just are dumbfounded. You just look at this thing like, wow. Like, what happened? That rhetorical question, what happened, summed up the state of the Buffaloes. The fallout, benching and discipline. When asked about the benching of wide receiver Amarian Miller and defensive back Joseph Williams, Sanders confirmed the move was disciplinary but brushed off concerns that it might have affected team morale. Our guys don't care about that, Sanders said bluntly. The rest of the guys, they're business as usual because that's life. They've been through high school, youth ball. Guys have done stupid things in life, so for them, it's next man up. But behind the scenes, it's clear that discipline and consistency have become recurring problems within the Colorado locker room. Sanders' early approach, bringing in transfer stars and reshaping the roster overnight, worked wonders for publicity but may have created instability in long-term chemistry. No bowl dreams, just reality. With the loss, Colorado's bowl hopes were officially extinguished. What was once a season filled with talk of postseason breakthroughs and NFL draft hype now stands as a harsh reminder of how fast momentum can evaporate in college football. We ain't thinking about no bowl right now, Sanders said when asked about postseason hopes. We're thinking about this moment. Let's grade this moment. Let's figure out why this happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. Sanders' tone was analytical, not emotional, almost like a man dissecting a failed experiment. I need to know all these whys before we can move on and even think about something down the street, he added. I'm not a down-the-street thinker. I'm a now guy. The locker room challenge. In the locker room, Sanders' message was clear and sharp. He challenged his players not to hide behind social media fame, nil deals, or flashy appearances. I challenged them and identified them as a group to stand up and step up, Sanders said. All this hoop hall, this yeah, all this want to look good stuff, it doesn't work unless you're balling. We're in that kind of generation right now. Everybody wants to look good and get paid. But you've got to ball. You've got to play. That statement wasn't just about one game. It was about the culture Sanders is fighting to build in Boulder. Coach Prime's crossroads. For the first time in his Colorado tenure, Deion Sanders looked and sounded like a coach staring down a genuine crisis. Not because of one loss, but because of what that loss revealed. A team with talent but no cohesion. A roster full of potential but lacking the fundamental grit to back it up. The irony isn't lost on anyone. Sanders, once the symbol of athletic perfection and confidence, now faces his toughest opponent yet, his own team's identity. Still, if there's one thing history has shown, it's that Coach Prime never stays down for long. His competitive fire burns too hot, and his belief in his players, however tested, remains his most defining trait. But as Sanders himself said, belief without execution means nothing. We've got to figure this out now, he concluded. Right now. What comes next? Colorado's schedule doesn't get any easier, and the pressure surrounding the program will only intensify. Every decision, from player discipline to practice habits, will now be under scrutiny. Yet, amid the wreckage of Salt Lake City, there's still a chance for redemption. Sanders has always turned adversity into motivation. He did it in the NFL, in baseball, and during his first season in college football when Colorado was projected to win one game but shocked the nation with early upsets. This latest chapter, a public humiliation in Utah, may ultimately serve as the wake-up call his program needed. For now, though, the scoreboard says it all. Utah 53, Colorado 7. And for Deion Sanders, those numbers might sting more than any headline or critic ever could. Because in the house of Coach Prime, losing is bad, but quitting? That's unforgivable.